So here we are on the final night of the first annual International Conference on Psychology, Counseling, and Education. And we're joined here with all of our presenters. Well, all of our presenters minus one. There was one person that wasn't able to stay. He had to go for the evening. But it is a privilege and an honor to sit here on stage with
Two
some
Dr.
of the
Deans. No, Wilkinson. Two Dr. Wilkinson.
We're slaying this stuff.
It's been a long couple of days, and one Dr. Wilkinson's having a rough. But it has been an honor and a privilege to get to know you guys over the last couple of days, and so we're just taking a little bit of time here on the final night to chat a little bit about the conference as a whole, so that our listeners and others online can learn more about what we've done over the last couple of days and be ready for next time. So as we're getting started, so that I don't mispronounce anyone's name or anything like that, let's go around and just introduce yourself, maybe tell where you're from and sort of your area of expertise. We don't have to start with Dr. Richards.
No, I have to start. I'm Richard Marshall. I'm Berney's practice partner from Florida. First of all, I want to thank anybody who's had anything to do with this conference. Dennis, thank you. I can't imagine the amount of work that you put into this. We have all said, we've done many, many conferences. This is one of the best experiences that all of us have had, and we really mean that. Normally when you go to these conferences, you can't wait to get back home, and you just get to about next to the last day, and you start to think, oh, I've had it, I really want to go home. We would all like to have another day with you. That's how we feel about this. So it's been a wonderful experience to us because you put a lot of time and effort and planning into it. So it's been a great experience for us. We want to thank you for that. Berney and I were featured speakers here. Again, thank you for that opportunity. And thank you for the opportunity to be able to work with a group like this. So we appreciate everything you did. Thank you.
So I'm Laura Caulfield. I'm chair of the Institute for Community Research and Development at the University of Wolverhampton in the UK. My expertise is particularly around forensic psychology and criminology. And I guess just to exactly echo that, and also say thanks to New Era University for being such a good host for a really wonderful time.
I'm Fraser Smith, and I'm a counselling psychologist in training at Glasgow Caledonian University in Scotland, and I work as a research assistant in health psychology and a seminar tutor for psychology undergraduates. And I spoke the other day at this conference on men's mental health, and it's just been an incredible experience. The whole thing has just been amazing. Everybody's been incredible. It's been a very overwhelming experience in a lot of ways, actually. So.
I'm Mandy Sangir, and I'm an international human rights activist, and I work all over the world with some of the biggest organisations like the UN and Amnesty International. And it's been a great honour today to run a workshop on violence against women, looking at the impact of abuse, and actually the interaction between young people has been overwhelming. And young women today following me on Twitter and feeling really empowered and feel like they want to start a movement is something that I'm so passionate about. So I feel like everyone here that this has been a phenomenal conference, and well done Richard and everyone else at New Era and everybody else. And I'm sorry if I've missed anyone, but it has been brilliant, and actually the people have made it absolutely brilliant, and your kindness is just overwhelming, and I'm beyond grateful, so thank you.
I'm Rohit Sagoo. I came originally from my mother's womb many years ago. And that was many years ago. That's where I originally came from. After spending all that time growing up, and then got to a certain age, I then got into employment, and I'm a senior lecturer at Anglia-Ruskin University, and I teach children's nursing. So I suddenly became sensible thereafter, after many years. I must confess that we've had a few drinks this evening. Or it's just me. It's just me. But senior lecturer at Anglia-Ruskin University, teaching children's course and nursing course, and it was a privilege to do some blog posts for Uncle Richie, has said. And Auntie Berney welcomed us with the largest open arms ever and in respect to that, we embrace you equally with the same largest arms back, and so we've loved it and enjoyed it, and thank you very much.
Hey, I'm Dean Wilkinson. I'm Senior Lecturer in Forensic Psychology at the University of Worcester in England, and I was here to talk about the arts and older offenders, which related to Laura Caulfield's talk as well on day one. Again, to thank everyone who's been involved in organising the conference. Absolutely fantastic time. I think it's been so welcoming, and I just wanted to add one more thing, which was just to recognise, and being from a bit of an arts background myself, just recognising the talent of the students that performed for us. I think there's some fantastic talent on the stage, and I think that's something for the university to be proud of as well.
Hi, I'm Nita Roncesvalles, and I teach at Texas Tech University. I dabble in sports psychology. That's why I'm here, but my expertise is in motor development. I didn't think I would fit in, given that my field is in kinesiology, but I mean, mind and body are so interconnected, and this group has welcomed me, and we've enjoyed each other's company, and the students, and all of you guys have welcomed us, and I couldn't have asked for more. And I originally came from the Philippines, so I am welcoming everybody to my country. I'm so proud of my country, and I'm so proud of how you have also, just with smiles on your faces, it's just amazing. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Jamie Hooker-Hughes. I'm a clinical psychologist. This is a long list, sorry, clinical neuropsychologist and psychotherapist. And I specialise in working with trauma. And I was really pleased to be invited to give the opening keynote, where I talked about a 25-year perspective on working with survivors of war and disaster and abuse and terrorism. From the moment we walked through the gates of New Era, I was just amazed to see what preparations had been given for this conference. We were greeted by huge banners with our faces on. We were greeted by ranks of people on reception in the lobby. And then I must single out, I spent nearly 15 years with our Ministry of Defence, and I ended up as head of healthcare psychology for the MOD. I must single out your criminology students. They were the smartest, most efficient, just friendly people. Really great. They helped us find our way around. Nothing was too much trouble. So the welcome's been fantastic. The conference we'll get on to talking about in a minute. I've written several times back to friends in the UK saying that the Filipinos are the friendliest people I've ever met. This is my first visit, and it's definitely not my last. So thank you so much, everybody.
I'm Isabel Gazalfi. I'm a student at Columbia University. I study psychology, and I plan to get a doctorate in child clinical psychology. And again, I want to echo everyone saying thank you so much for welcoming us. It's been one of my first conferences, and it's been an amazing experience. I held a workshop on parent-child interaction therapy and how it can be implemented for different types of disorders. And I've drawn my experience from my research assistant position at the Columbia Medical School. So it's been an amazing experience. Thank you again.
Well, thanks everyone. So I think that the most interesting thing as we all kind of went through and talked about our experiences and our backgrounds is, as you said, Nita, the diversity in our experiences. And when I remember looking at the program that Dan had put together, and I saw everyone, and I was thinking, oh boy.
And particularly, where does snooker fit into it? What is snooker doing in all this? And I thought, this is going to be an interesting time.
At least you pronounced it properly.
I've been tutored. So, no, it is the diversity and the diversity of backgrounds and training.
Right. I looked at the program and I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is either going to be wonderful or it's going to be a disaster, because it's,
I hope
when
you
you
have
get
an open mind.
right. But it was really fantastic, and I think that I'd love to hear you guys' perspectives on this, but one of the things I noticed as we were going through the different speakers, from as Jamie started and Harris, who wasn't able to join us, he concluded. Every one of us referred to each other's talks as we were going through, and
I couldn't do that.
you didn't.
We all
You were
referred to yours.
anticipating. You were planting the seed for us.
You set the benchmark.
But it was, we all were able to refer to each other because there's such an overlap in all of our fields, and it was just remarkable to hear. From snooker to I don't say it right. I didn't do the tutoring. So, but in kinesthesiology and just all the different areas and experiences that we bring, it was fantastic.
I think that had a lot to do with just how much each individual has a great passion for what they actually do, and that was evident from not only from the talks I think as well, but from the kind of interaction that we had after the talks and from the students and the people that attended the conference. It was just great to see people want to learn more, and I think when that kind of thing happens, you put a bunch of people. Like on your podcast and things earlier on Mental Breakdown was we were referring to different talks about different people and talking about how they're related, so it just shows you how all these things interplay.
And it was really amazing to look through, and that is credit to the university here, that actually the young people, because I know that I saw Isabella teaching someone how to set up a survey monkey. And they were just so excited by your support, and it was just amazing, and actually it's been really something else.
I look at that. Really, the appetite for learning among the students here just shone through, really shone through. And I had a few photos taken over the last day or two. He had the most. No, he had the most. And everyone who I met, I asked what they were studying, and they were all virtually psychology students, and really proud to be psychology students, and really keen to learn, and really grateful to all the speakers here, for what we were sharing, and really keen to follow in our footsteps. So I totally agree with you.
I think most of us have shone under the large umbrella of mental health, and though we've had different spokes of mental health that we come up either through art, from prisons, through perspective of males, through snooker, through other realms of mental health, I think we've certainly sent students away with a positive message, and certainly once I finished my presentation, apart from the overwhelmingness of selfies, it was phenomenal to see students just turn around and say, actually, you know what, this kind of research is commendable, but also needs to be done in the Philippines. It's something that we need to look forward to, and something that can be disseminated in the Philippines, and we can have another arc or an angle to looking at it from an East Asian perspective. And I think that's groundbreaking, to be honest, because that's what we've laid. We've come along from Western countries, and we've set some kind of groundbreaking ethoses throughout the whole entire of our journey here in the last 3 days. And it's something that students within the university really have embraced and want to work on and develop further, which is part of the research cycle, which I would turn around advocate for myself as well. And so
I think one of the things that was clever and what was really interesting was that when you were talking about art and when you were talking about some of the work that you were doing, they kind of looked at it and thinking, well, how can they adapt that to their models? How can they adapt that in their systems? How can they adapt their education system? And I thought that was really quite interesting. So they were kind of looking at, actually, you've come here, so how do we adapt that to our systems? And that was kind of quite interesting to see.
Yeah, I think that a lot of that shone through just the wonderful questions that were asked. I love the way that we had the conference set up, where we would have a couple presenters, and then we would have the opportunity to sit up and field questions. And the questions were so. They were so. Some of them were very specific about specifically how to apply some of the topics that we covered. But others were, as you said, how can we apply this to our culture here?
Yeah, I think that was key, actually, the application of what everybody spoke about. That was one of the overriding themes from those questions was, how do we apply this in the Philippines, or how do we apply this interest in our training. And I think when we start, I get really excited when I start thinking about research going into practical application like that, because I think it's one thing, of course, it's imperative that the research actually is conducted and that we talk about it, but when we actually start thinking about how that research is applied to everyday life, I think is vital. And to think about, what was said earlier about bringing that from our cultures, the varying cultures that we're from, to a Far Eastern perspective is really exciting to witness.
And I think today, like evaluating what we're doing as well, because this is a form of evaluating everything that we've done, it is actually quite clever to kind of look at our outcomes, because obviously Den had outcomes, what he wanted to achieve, and he knew what he wanted the vision to be, and it's about kind of not being complacent, and actually this has to continue, because actually when we go to conferences we have this burst for a few weeks and then it kind of wears down, and me and Laura talked about that, and it's about keeping up the momentum, isn't it?
Just going back to the point that Fraser made a couple of seconds ago, it's been really interesting for me to have some of my own thinking challenged. So I'm talking about research that I'm doing in the UK, in the very particular prison system that we have there, and in talking to practitioners who are working here in the Philippines, actually really thinking about what some of the issues might be there, about trying to just simply translate what we're doing into practice here. Just we need some very careful thinking because of some of the differences. So apart from challenging my thinking, it's also been really useful for me to just to understand a bit more about a different criminal justice system that I don't know anything about.
This is what I actually appreciate, because as much as the students were expecting to learn from us, what I was experiencing the whole time is we were learning from them. The idea that, Laura and I had a good experience of talking to the criminology students, which none of you saw, which is me and her and this bunch of criminology students. We asked them, it's from a totally different perspective. And the fact that you guys came over here and were willing to see it from this side, it's because we have a lot of learning from each other. And it was just beautiful the way these kids were like, but they were, Laura asked them a question, and from the Western point of view is, you ask a question, expect a response. Question and response. That just doesn't work in my culture.
So I'm so glad you were there to help me with that process.
Because the culture of the Philippines is, you ask a question, and there's a little bit of the mothering that you have to, there's like so much unspoken cultural nuances there that you need to be sensitive to before you can get the answer to your question. It just doesn't work,
And I think
the way the Westerners want
like
it
in the
to work.
workshops today, and I don't know what you thought, Isabel, but I was kind of been able to relate my own heritage of being of Asian descent and relating, because I could kind of adapt some of the things that they were experiencing. So when I talked about violence, talked about honor, talked about stigma, talked about shame, and actually because I could relate to it and talked about my own experience of like my community, then it kind of broke down a lot of barriers, and people felt more open to talk about things, because at first people were a little bit shy, and it was the same 4 or 5 people that would speak up, but actually by the end of the workshop, there was an awful lot of people getting involved.
Yeah, and I also had the honor of hosting a little bit of a smaller workshop, and it was great to see how the crowd started to interact with me and really challenge my ideas of what I was bringing up. So I was talking a little bit about parenting and how my training has taught me of how it's important to give effective commands to children. And what one of the students brought up was that a lot in the culture, there's a lot of reverse psychology. So mothers a lot of the times will say, keep crying until you get tired. So we kind of talked a little bit about the pros and cons of that and how it differs from culture to culture. So it's fascinating to, see it from a different perspective. Absolutely.
I think you always come to a conference ready to learn, don't you? Obviously you come to share your bit of research or whatever, but you come to learn. And I've learned so much just from all the presentations from the speakers. I learned so much from the students. But actually, yesterday I found out about the new Philippines mental health law. which is amazing. And it's got so much in it that we in other countries could learn from it. The stuff that it's got in it about stigma, about discrimination, you know, we could, of course, we can learn a lot. And it would be totally wrong to say you could go anywhere and not learn anything. But I was very, very impressed by that, I have to say.
Absolutely. And I, you know, in you guys' responses and comments, you know, we were talking about just the responses from the students and the audience. And well, Den's not in here anymore, but I don't know if you guys, he had shared with me some of the numbers, and you know, a couple of weeks or maybe a month or two before we came out, I had looked online and we had about 150 people or so who had registered. We had over 600 participants. We had over 600 people that came to this conference, which is amazing for a first ever conference. And this was New Era University's first ever conference. And so, you know, to look at that type of support and the diversity of the audience, we had everything from a prison guard to educators to students. So it was very much a success.
One of the things that I appreciated, and this is a compliment to all of you, one of the things the students seemed to me they wanted to learn was about the value of research, that somehow there was this theme running through it, that they were here, and one of the things we wanted to do was to help them appreciate. Most of them are not going to become statisticians, despite the faculty members who teach. She's not paying attention. But many of these students will not become statisticians, but we want them to value and appreciate statistics. What you did so effectively was you presented your research results in a very simple, understandable, you made it available to them. And I think that was for many of them, I think it was a turning point, because they said, oh, this isn't so mysterious, and it does make sense. And I commend you for that. And I think that's what, to me, the turning point in this conference was when you presented your research in a way that all of us could grasp, including the students, and we could talk to them at their level about research. And it helped me tremendously in my talk. I changed my talk after I heard you, and that's what I wanted to impart to them, because many students don't appreciate the value of research. And that's the only thing we have. You know,
and that's what that girl who came up to me, she was a young student, and she said that this conference had inspired her to try her own research project.
That's right.
And she had this question, and she asked me, how can I put this into practice? How can this actually become a research project?
Right.
And so I shared with her some of the tools that I've learned through my education, and it was great to see her wheels turning.
And I'm sure she's not the only one. I think that you felt that you could feel it going through the audience,
energy,
that there was this moment when people said, oh, okay, maybe I can embrace this and understand it.
Yeah, taking that forward, it's that embracing, because we're from around the world.
Yes.
And we've embarked on the Philippines and disseminated our research all around the world. So from a student perspective, they're thinking, actually the problem may exist in the Philippines,
That's right.
actually exist around the world too.
Exist
and
everywhere.
we're all singing from the same hymn sheet, though it's from a different country, a different language, a different culture, a different community. Actually, it responds to the needs of their country too, which is what I found from my research when I actually have students, messaging me back and saying, can you do this? Can we do this? Can we take your findings and do it in from an Eastern Asian perspective? Can we do this? So really, it shows the journey of research, and not only shows the journey, but it's applicable around the world.
Science is science. It doesn't matter what language. Science is science.
But also picking up on both what you just said, Rohit, and you, Berney, the parallel paper presentations today, obviously you could only go to a few, there's so many going on, but if you looked at the list of presenters, you saw where they came from. They came not just from all over the Philippines, but they came from neighbouring countries, so there's all of that. And going back to your point, Berney, I'm a past president of the British Psychological Society. Our annual conference attracts 500 delegates. Annual conference of the BPS. And yet, here was this conference, first one of its type, 650. Amazing. Amazing.
Absolutely incredible. Absolutely right.
So we've made it through this first annual conference in a very successful way. I'd love to hear from you guys thoughts about moving forward. What do you see hope for as we move forward, and maybe even start thinking about and planning the second annual international conference? What do you hope to see? What do you think could make things even better? What do you hope to continue to see as we move forward?
I good conversation with Richard earlier about this as well, and I think the most important thing is in terms of conferences and from a perspective of looking at what we've done and what we've achieved from here, it would be possibly a little unwise to go to the States or the UK because we've already established what we need to do. I think what we've done here is to make pockets of research within the Eastern Asian continent, possibly India, possibly other countries neighbouring around here, to turn around, just open up just that window of opportunity for research as well, and say and allow students to reflect on that as well. And that would be a real starting point as well in terms of it and bringing it forward. And certainly for the second conference, being around the Asian continent, Eastern Asian continent, would be certainly a bonus.
I think that's a good step. But I think also one of the things that I think is about keeping up the momentum. And so how do you do that? It's about kind of being continuous about some of the work and actually looking at running shorter workshops or running conferences smaller, but actually having people Skype in, because I've done conferences with universities in the UK where I've called experts from around the world to join in via Skype, and they're kind of contributing, but actually it's worked really, really well. So, I think young people have an appetite to learn, and actually it's about working with the universities and saying, well, actually we've done this works, this is what the outcomes were, and I think we've got to evaluate this and actually evidence base it. I mean, we know what's happened here, but it's actually capturing that and actually kind of using that as a model going forward.
I don't know about conferences, but in terms of moving forward in the future, I was so heartened by our students who were in our table, Karimi and Willie, because they're the ones doing the collaboration already. They're actually linked up with some students they were talking to, and they were thinking of working together.
Some the presenters from their session.
And from their I mean, it's hard for me. It's because I'm in kinesiology. If I'm going to collaborate with anybody right now, your research has to be about older women and movement and falling. It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't always have to be that way. We can always but collaboration is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we can do it. We just have to be creative about it, I think.
And that is one of the things that's definitely come out of this conference, just collaboration, as you were just saying, and as we found out about, a lot of people are saying, can I collaborate? Can I be involved in your research? Can you help us with our research? Internationally, that's fantastic. A lot of people have been saying, well, how do we link into the APA, or how do we link into the British Psychological Society? I think that's a really strong theme.
I think as well with that, like you're talking about that element of collaboration, it would be really cool just on a conference level if, in future years we actually saw some of those students coming forward to present some of their own research to an extent. Like if we're thinking on those paper presentation sessions, I was fortunate enough to do a little mini one for 15 minutes. It was a paper I wrote a couple of years ago on the use of counselling psychology, and how cool would it be to see some of those students come forward and actually start to progress forward to being able to speak at these conferences. And one of the things on my focus was on men's mental health, and I can't remember if it was you, Richard, or someone else had mentioned about how great would it be about doing a collaboration between a culture like mine who doesn't particularly value their elderly, with my focus is on older men's mental health. If we did a cross-cultural study or some kind of cross-cultural work or presentation about a culture like the Philippines who really do value their older people, and see what that right, exactly. That's true. It's completely, and how that would correlate and what the differences would be there. So seeing some kind of involvement, seeing some of the people that have been at this conference come through with that, I think would be really cool.
And I think as future steps, I know I'm attending one of the big conferences, the APA, and they have a lot of cool mentoring sessions. So I think a lot of the students here were really trying to connect with us and ask us questions, and maybe having little sessions where speed mentoring, and we could really talk with students about their situation and what they do from us.
And I think
Is that like speed dating?
And I think also,
So it's a 15-minute session where you get to talk to experts
and actually it's
about
also,
your situation.
yeah, but it's also like doing webinars for young people, because actually if that's what you want to do, we could all do those through Google Hangout. And also the power of social media, because actually I was overwhelmed and I hadn't even spoken, and I woke up to like 67 new followers on Twitter, and they were all from the Philippines, and then like today again. So I know that the power of social media, and I'm talking to Dan, and we're looking at maybe doing a Twitter chat each week and looking at issues, and kind of have young people from the Philippines and across the world kind of publish their work, or if they're doing something that actually that they can engage and build a network of people, because that's the only way that we grow, is actually by working in partnership. And I think one of the things that I've captured here from all of us is that we show a lot of respect to each other, and we've all kind of really gelled, and that's come across, and I think that it's really lovely, because I mean I go to a lot of conferences. I'm off to one in 48 hours time almost, and you know sometimes we don't gel with people. People are very protective over their work. People don't want to share their ideas. They don't want to do that, and I think it's been lovely that people have been so open about some of their work, Berney, as well. Yeah,
Another thing, I was thinking too, because I knew that we were all set up for a workshop, and I didn't know what to expect. But what I was expecting from a workshop, we didn't have time though, but really like right there and then come up with a research question. So how are we going to do, literally come up with,
Start to unpack.
if we're going to do the east-west thing, how are we going to do it?
Or like how to
Hammer it.
Yeah.
It's I don't know how to do it, but if we're going to shepherd it along, it would be great to just even try.
And I would like to do this in places where it's going to be appreciated and needed. And I think that's one of the other differences. When you go to most conferences, they're in luxury hotels. You know, everybody's sort of in the same place. There's an appreciation here that I felt almost immediately, and it grew over the days. And what we were doing.
That's why I really appreciated our Malaysian.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
They want us to
Contingent.
come to Malaysia.
Yeah.
They want us to come to Singapore.
Because Malaysia is actually the hub of travel right now in Asia, because it's literally, you find a Malaysian, you can go everywhere at such.
And I would, as we move forward, hopefully we will, as we move forward, I'd like to move toward those places where what we're bringing is valued and
Valued
appreciated.
and appreciated.
And it is in
I
so many
see.
places, because you look at the libraries, you look at the laboratories, and you realize how much we have in our cultures.
And I think, do you not think sometimes universities, we kind of just go to Europe, we go
That's
to
right.
kind of
That's
partners
right.
that, or you go to Canada, because we know that, and because to me, like going to the Balkans and
That's right.
to Scandinavian countries, because their culture is somewhat different to ours, and the Baltic states especially, and they are so open-minded. They want to learn, they want to know, because they feel like that we have gone ahead, and they have this image of America and Britain, we're kind of leading the way. They feel like that they have been kind of left, and so when we share our ideas, our ideology and our research, they kind of are really open to that. And I think whereas if we went to Harvard or something, they're probably thinking, oh yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah, I think that kind of maybe pulling a lot of that together, I think that what was the most impressive thing to me was you guys, that's how I would say it in the South, you guys, y'all, was how y'all worked with, just communicated with the students, and were so approachable for the students, and allowed them, you guys gave them their email addresses, and that openness that you guys demonstrated, and I think that encouraged the students to come forward more and really start to share their ideas and their thoughts, and I think that a lot of that started with your openness, and so I really appreciated that from all of you, and as many of you have already said, just the connection that we've made over the last 72 hours has been remarkable.
I think especially Dean and Fraser kind of, and Jamie as well, kind of really embraced the culture, because I travel around this area, and students do love taking photos, they love wanting to kind of meet people and do that, and you guys have been really ace, and you really did step up, bless you.
I think we need to give a shout out to you guys. guys as well. I think it's often on your own show you often talk about other people, but you guys gave incredible presentations about education and the parent-teacher relationship and educational psychology in a place. And you did all those things you're crediting us with. You guys did too. So giving you guys a shout out on your own show for
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You didn't pay me for that.
I don't think I've ever been to a conference ever where there's been such a sort of very rapidly formed, close-knit connection between the group of speakers. It's just uncanny. Really.
Hello, I'm going to add, it's been a privilege being on the Berney and Richie show. You know, we've heard of Ren and Stimpy, Itchy and Scratchy, but you know, Rich and Berney, you've taken out the ballpark completely.
Just for that, you might come back.
You are the new British Morecambe and Wise.
For a minute there, I thought you were going to say Mork and Mindy.
Nanu.
All right. So I think that is, unless anybody has anything else they want to add in, Richard said this the other night at dinner, but I will miss you guys. I've enjoyed these last few days, and I'm eager for us all to stay in touch and stay connected, and look forward to doing more work with all of you. So.
And to the Philippines, Mubahe.
Mabuhay, and if I can just cheat a little bit and get this down here. I'm not doing Google Translate, but I just want to give a little message here which says Mami Miskita.
How do you do it? Was that good?
Yeah, that was good. He nailed it.
What did that mean?
It means I'm going to miss you.
One of the things.
If you notice, there's so much a mashup of Tagalog and English, so it's called Taglish.
Okay.
Mami miss. The operative word is miss.
Yes, Mami Miskita.
And I think, one of the things is that people never kind of capture is some of the unsung heroes, the volunteers behind the scenes. People who has actually been a trooper who has stepped up every morning to support us, make sure that we're all on track, and and it's about, there's no I in team, and you really have been an asset as well, and I think we need to really give a shout out to Graham as well.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yes. So.
He had all that.
All right.
And a shout out to the person who saved my presentation.
Yes.
That was a great story.
Yeah.
He'll tell everybody how to share it.
There have been a lot of great stories over the past 72 hours. And we'll have to
Maybe
share.
that can be another podcast.
Again, I led the way on how to do a presentation with half the slide missing and no clicker.
No clicker.
Really guinea pig.
No clicker.
That was not a good beginning. I know. Boy, this is gonna be a nightmare.
You did
So we're just fix that.
I pulled it off there, didn't I?
So,
Good for all.
all right. Well, thank you all for joining us and talking a little bit about everything. And again, look forward to working with you some more.
And tune in next week for Richie and Berney.
Okay, let me say, maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat.
It means thank you.
Thank you very much. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, guys.